Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you checked your bank account and felt genuinely okay? Not relieved, not anxious, not doing that mental math in your head where you're trying to figure out if you can make it to next Friday. Just okay. For a lot of people, that feeling is rare. And I don't say that to make you feel bad. I say it because if you're watching this, you've probably had that moment. Maybe recently, where you looked at your account, felt your stomach drop a little, and thought, where does it all go? That question is what this whole video is about. Not the generic save more, spend less's advice that doesn't actually help anyone, but the real answer to that question. The one that most people never actually stop to figure out. Because here's what I've come to understand. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a clarity problem. And that changes everything about how you fix it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about budgeting. The word itself carries this weird emotional weight. When people hear budget, something in them shuts down. It feels like restriction, like punishment, like you're being told you can't have things. And I think that's exactly why so many people avoid it. There's this belief quietly running in the background for a lot of us that budgeting is for people who are really good with money. People who have spreadsheets and color-coded categories and some kind of financial discipline gene that you either have or you don't. But that's not what budgeting actually is. That's just the story we've been handed. And honestly, it keeps people stuck. The truth is, not having a budget isn't a personality trait. It's not laziness. It's not irresponsibility. Most of the time, it's just that nobody ever sat down with you and showed you how money actually moves through your life. Nobody explained that without some kind of structure, money doesn't just disappear. It flows toward the path of least resistance. And that path is almost never the one you actually want. So if you've been living paycheck to paycheck and feeling vaguely guilty about it, I want you to let that go for a second. Because the guilt isn't helping, and it's also not accurate. You're not bad with money. You just haven't had a clear map yet. So let's build one. The first thing, and this might sound almost too simple, is knowing exactly what comes in. All of it. Your main job, any side work you do, any passive income, any consistent money that hits your account. You need a real number. Let's say for the sake of this, you're bringing in $3,000 a month. That's your baseline. That's the ceiling. Everything else you do has to fit inside that number. And the moment you stop treating it like a ceiling, money starts leaking in ways that are really hard to track. Now here's where most budgeting advice goes wrong. People jump straight to here's what you should spend on this category. But before you can do that, before any of it makes sense, you have to actually know where your money is going right now, not where you think it's going, where it's actually going. This step feels boring, I know, but it's genuinely the most important one. For 1 month, just one, you track every single expense. Every coffee, every grocery run, every subscription you forgot you signed up for, every time you ordered delivery because you were tired after work. All of it. When people do this for the first time, they're almost always surprised. Not just a little surprised, genuinely shocked. Because we carry these mental estimates of what we spend, and they're almost always wrong. Not because we're bad at math, but because spending happens in the moment, and in the moment, each individual purchase feels small. It's only when you see them all together that the picture becomes clear. You might discover you're spending $300 on groceries, $200 on eating out, and another $80 on apps and subscriptions, some of which you don't even really use. That's not a judgment. That's just data. And data is what lets you make choices. Once you have that picture, you can start making decisions with intention. And that's really what a budget is. It's not a restriction. It's a decision made in advance, when you're calm and clear-headed, rather than in the moment when you're tired or stressed. One framework that tends to work for a lot of people is thinking about your money in 3 broad buckets. Roughly half of your income goes toward the things you genuinely need: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, the basics. About 30% goes toward the things you want: entertainment, dining out, things that make your life feel like it's worth living. And 20% goes toward your future self: savings, debt payoff, building some kind of financial cushion. Now, I want to be honest with you. For some people, that math doesn't work immediately. If you're in a city with high rent, or you're carrying debt, or your income is lower, 50% for needs might not be enough. And that's real. That's not a failure on your part. It's a reflection of your actual circumstances. The point of the framework isn't to follow it perfectly. The point is to have something to orient yourself around, to see where you are relative to where you want to be. And once you set a target for each category, once you decide in advance that you're going to save $500 this month, something subtle but powerful happens. You start making slightly different decisions throughout the month. Not dramatic ones, not deprivation. Just small course corrections. You cook dinner one extra night a week. You cancel one subscription. You think twice about a purchase that would have been automatic before. None of those things feel life-changing in the moment, but they add up. Here's the mindset shift that I think matters most. Budgeting isn't about controlling your money. It's about understanding the relationship between your money and your choices, and then deciding consciously what kind of choices you want to make. Think about someone, let's call her Sarah. She was doing what most people do, spending without tracking, hoping things would work out, feeling a low-level financial anxiety in the background of most days. She wasn't reckless. She just didn't have a clear picture. When she sat down and mapped it out, she was spending more on subscriptions than she thought, more on convenience food than she'd realized. And she had no savings buffer at all, not because she couldn't have one, but because she'd never allocated for one. 3 months after she built a simple, honest budget, not a perfect one, a real one, she had $1,500 saved and had paid off a credit card. That didn't happen because she completely changed her life. It happened because she had clarity. Clarity that let her make slightly better decisions consistently over time. That's the thing about financial progress. It's almost never dramatic. It's usually just the result of small, consistent choices made by someone who finally knows what they're working with. So if you're sitting here thinking, okay, where do I actually start? Here's how I think about it. First, just get the number. This week, sit down for 20 minutes and figure out exactly what comes into your account each month. Don't estimate. Look at your actual bank statements or pay stubs and get a real number. Then, for the next 30 days, track everything you spend. You can use an app. There are good ones built for this. Or you can use a spreadsheet, or even just a note on your phone. The tool doesn't matter. The habit does. At the end of that month, look at what you spent and sort it into broad categories: needs, wants, savings. See how the percentages break down. And then, and this is the key part, set an intention for the following month. Pick one category where you'd like to spend a little less, and one place you'd like to redirect that money. Just one. Not a complete lifestyle overhaul. One small, deliberate shift, and then review it again at the end of the month. What worked? What felt too tight? What did you not even notice? Adjust and go again. That's it. That's the whole system. It's not complicated. It just requires that you actually do it, and that you do it consistently enough to let the clarity compound over time, the same way money compounds when you give it direction. I want to leave you with something that I think gets lost in most financial conversations. You are allowed to be somewhere in the middle of figuring this out. You don't have to have a perfect budget, a full emergency fund, a maxed retirement account, and zero debt before you're allowed to feel good about where you are. That bar is unrealistic, and chasing it tends to make people give up before they ever really start. What matters is that you know a little more today than you did yesterday, that you understand your money a little better this month than you did last month, that you made one decision, even one, with a bit more intention. Progress is the point, not perfection. If you've been living paycheck to paycheck and you're tired of it, that feeling is valid, but it's not your permanent reality. It's just where you are right now. And the distance between where you are and where you want to be is shorter than you think. It just requires that first moment of clarity to see it. You have more control here than you've probably been told, and that's worth holding on to.